Hello and welcome to another episode of I Will Hold Space for Your Darkness, a first responder mental health podcast. I'm your host, Erin Jane. And today I am joined by, the great bearded man, Rich Creamer. Rich is a Navy... Yes, exactly. No one else has gotten that intro, so feel privileged.
I am. I'm truly privileged.
Rich is a Navy veteran. He's a retired police officer from Norfolk Police Department in Virginia with over 24 years on the job. He's been involved in first responder and public safety wellness programs for the past decade. He's a board member on Blue Cancer Connect and the International Association of Police Chiefs, which I didn't have dyslexia for when I just explained it this time, where he's a co-chair of the family section. He's currently the Director of Public Safety Insights with Lighthouse Health and Wellness, and he is also the host of the Responder Reset podcast. Thank you for joining me today, Rich.
Yeah, no problem, Erin. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure talking with you, and thank you for your continued support. I truly appreciate it.
As always. I mean, I don't know if a conversation between us is not going to involve a lot of shit giving either way. So I had the unique pleasure of meeting Rich back in October.
Yes.
And, basically since then he's become the Massachusetts native big brother I've never had. So
Well, I do my best.
Yes, exactly. My brother's on the other side of the world. So there's a shit giving vacancy that you stepped into. So I appreciate you. Keep me humble.
Anytime I can fill that void, I'm there for you.
All right, mate. So let's kick it off. Is there anything that sort of drew you towards joining the Navy or anything from that time in your life that you would like to share with the audience in terms of that's influenced you in that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all come to a crossroads, in our childhood, in growing up in, just a small suburb right outside of Boston in Chelsea. I grew up in public housing, not the easiest life, but a life, the life that was handed to me. I played those cards, and, at times I had to fold, but I was never one. I was never one not to re-up. So in that re-up, the cards that were handed to me was a decision to leave my comfort zone, and I knew that was going to be the only way to start over. Joined the Navy, and away we went.
Yeah, and that's what drew you down to Virginia.
Yeah, so I was stationed at Little Creek. Did a couple years there. Got injured in an operation, like a counter narcotic type thing, and got my leg caught between a ship and a boat. And usually they frown upon keeping folks like me in the military. I was young. I recovered well, but here I am. Almost 30 years later, still dealing with the effects of what happened that day. So I did like any other person that has had the training that I had. I could shoot, I could fight. So I became a cop. Definitely not what was in the cards. Definitely.
I was gonna ask if that pivot was intentional or like.
Oh no, it was like it was like, oh shit, what the fuck do I do now? That's all that was. This wasn't, the whole cop thing was not in the cards. Like, it just wasn't something that I was like, oh, I've always been drawn to the profession or anything like that. It was out of urgency. Like, I had just met my wife. We had been married. I was getting out. So in order to provide, I used the skill set that I learned and the discipline and everything else, and found myself in a police academy.
There you go. And what was maybe growing up, little rough occasionally. What was your view of law enforcement up to that point?
I was usually on the other side, either running from those guys. It's funny because I did a conference back in the South Shore. It was with the Semlec, and one of the guys from the Chelsea Police Department. It was an old timer sitting in the front row that I recalled.
I remember you.
I recalled, a clean getaway from. So, it was always, it was nothing major. I wasn't, a criminal or anything like that, but, it was kids being kids and, getting into stuff because that was the surroundings I was in,
Yeah, that made sense. And so you pivot to becoming a police officer. Talk to me about that experience and I guess how you navigated a career in a field that perhaps you never actually envisaged.
Yeah, I think because I was exposed to the other side of it with where I lived and sometimes even within the home. I had a different outlook on policing. It was never a personal thing with me, where it can kind of turn into a us versus them type attitude with the community. I understand that in order to feed your family, you got to do things that may be outside of the norm, and these were conversations that I would have with gang members and criminals and stuff like that. And the level of respect went both ways. So it made my job very, very easy. If you look at me as who I am, the camera angles aren't doing me justice. I'm not a small guy, and can come off a certain way. But never really, at times, in split second decisions, you got to do things to keep yourself alive and your folks around you alive. But it was never the first thing. I was always using my words and using those skills to get me out of certain situations. Before, going hands on and stuff like that. So.
But that's commendable because there could be many in your situation who it would be that the natural inclination. Whereas someone like me, can I go hands-on? Absolutely. Did I enjoy it? Absolutely. But my words were a far greater tool and could sometimes diffuse a situation. Equally, as a female, I could piss people off just for being a female. So sometimes it was more important that I stood back. So there's the duality involved in law enforcement that I think is incredibly important. Times like that.
Absolutely.
And so sort of talk to me about what kind of track you went down. Did you go sort of criminal investigation, detective track?
Yeah. So I coming from, kind of a specialty type thing in the Navy, I had my fair share of doing that type of thing, but I was never really drawn, and I was really drawn to the mind work, really getting into the why people are committing the crimes that they're committing and stuff like that. So I was really drawn to criminal investigations, and found myself in the gang unit within the first couple months of being brought over to the detective division. And I spent almost 9 years within violent crimes. So within gangs, homicide, cold case homicide, dabble in robbery, but not officially. If there were robbery type charges within the gang unit, we would handle those or put on.
So all the real simple sort of squads.
Yeah, the easy
the
stuff.
light ones,
Yeah.
And so talk to me, was it, I guess, perhaps some of your personal experiences dealing with the aftermath of all of that kind of exposure that I guess drew you towards officer wellness?
No, I think what drew me to officer wellness is, I had watched, I was, before peer support was peer support, I guess, it always seemed I was this informal leader. Before getting promoted or anything like that, folks would come to me for advice or, life advice or whatever. And I'd be like, you're asking the rough, like I'm just as messed up as you are, buddy. But I always found them, found a path for them but I also watched a lot of folks lose their lives, lose their jobs, lose their marriages, lose their kids. And I just felt that we weren't doing enough, very reactive to a lot of the things and not getting down to the why of the behaviors, right? So it's easy for agencies and administrators to sit back and go, well, they used this type of force, we're going to discipline them, or they've done this and we're going to discipline them. But really, why? Like, why are they doing those things? So, I did like any, good-natured cop would do. I didn't want to go get help, so I decided to go to school and learn about people and learn about myself, and found myself while I was in violent crime, and when I later went on to the training division, working on my bachelor's degree in sociology, and then later getting my master's in human services counseling. All the while still working, still doing the job and doing it at a high level. But I did that selfishly. Like, it wasn't like I had I wanted to be a peer. I wanted to be a trained peer. I wanted to do those things. I wanted to help other people, but selfishly, it was really to learn about me and what the fuck was going on with me. Thinking that I could diagnose myself and fix it on my own, like any good-natured cop probably does, right?
And how did that work out for you, Rich?
It never works out well. It never works out well. I'll be the first one to tell you, I wore the mask very well, especially in my role as a peer coordinator. I was looked upon as the resilient guy, always doing something to remain or to reframe somebody's thinking about how the agency was treating them or anything like that. So I did it well. I hit it well. I got to the point, and I'm sure we'll get to this, so I don't want to jump ahead.
You're fine.
I got to a certain point. Where a life-altering event is what kind of put me where I needed to be, which was in front of a professional.
Mm-hmm. And so, obviously, there was that preceding event, but talk to me about how hard it was to take that mask off.
It was difficult. I had, without getting into the nuts and bolts of it, I had utilized going into the military to find something else to bleed into. There was a lot of things that I was exposed to as a kid. There was a lot of things that were looked upon as normal, that, looking back on it, wasn't as normal as we'd like to think it was. So I decided to go into the military and kind of bleed into that, where I could hide it well, use my fight, because I was constantly in that fight mode, to my advantage, to keep me disciplined and to keep me motivated and to keep me from being a high performer. I use that fight instinct to kind of keep me at the top level. And then I did the same thing. I found another job that I could bleed into the same way. So, and I did that for a long, long time. And, it was very tough. It was tough. The mask is still somewhere in this house. It's hidden somewhere. Every now and again.
Like on the wall.
On the wall behind me. It's there, and I'd be a liar if I told you that, I don't have days where I throw that bitch on and pretend that everything's fucking fine. I'm not, no one, anybody that gets on your show or any of these other fucking podcasts or the internet, that say that
Hey,
they're
you have a podcast. Don't be dirty on
right,
podcasts.
right. No, no, no. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But anybody that gets on these things and says that they're healed, they're full of shit. I think it's a journey. Like I think yes, you can be better. You can do things for yourself to be better, and you can practice those things. And I think sometimes we forget to practice, and we can kind of fall into those
Mhm.
same traps. So,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's truly healed. I don't think anybody is truly, better. I think it's getting 1% better every day.
Yeah.
Doing the things that keep you that 1% better every day, helps with the journey.
Absolutely. But I also think too, it's like, I think and it's like a personal thing, but I love learning.
Yeah.
So I think it's always important to keep educating ourselves, whether it's that formal education or reading like a good book that's going to inform us about our own experiences. And as we continue to grow and evolve, like we've got different things impacting us
Oh, absolutely.
from different, like I'm in the period of my life where I still have young children. Yours are a little bit older, so it's we're always facing different challenges, and then that is impacted with all of the other swill that we swim into. So
Yeah, and I think
you're right.
the big thing is when wearing that mask, it kind of gives you the ability to blame everything else, and not take a look in the mirror and go, yeah, it's you. It's not everybody else. You know what I mean?
Yes, that accountability can be lacking
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. But if I get that mask on, I can blame the job. I can blame
Yeah.
childhood. I can blame the military. I can blame all those things. I can blame,
Yeah.
a bad administration. I can blame anybody because it's easy. What's
Mm.
difficult is looking at yourself and going, you're to blame. Your actions, your reactions are all to blame.
Yeah. And I think blame can also be a strong word, but you can contribute.
Absolutely.
I think that is equally part of it too, because there does come a point where it's like, okay, whatever's happened, good, bad, fucking awful. Like we as first responders, we know the awful shit that can occur in this world, but there comes a point where it's like, okay, so now it's my choice.
Right.
Am I going to use it as an excuse, or am I going to, use it to fuel me to get better, to heal, to do all of those things? And there's that. I was looking at it the other day. I think it was like swelling around my head for a D for a radio show where it was like, that hurt people hurt
Hurt people.
people.
Right.
And it's like, true, but it's unhealed people hurt others.
Right.
Like you don't have to, just because you've been hurt doesn't mean you have to hurt others.
Correct. Or use that as motivation to whatever the motivation is.
Yeah.
I can probably go a couple different ways there, but I'll remain neutral for the moment.
For the moment. Oh my goodness. And so I guess you sort of lent into it a little bit. So let's just dive on in. You have been really open and talked about, being that person that everyone goes to, but maintaining that bit of a shield and a mask. Whatever you're comfortable sharing, what was the impetus to make that mask come down?
So, we had been tasked with helping another agency with a pretty large scale critical incident, and had done a fair share of debriefs. I was experiencing some what I believe to be stress related symptoms. Not to be gross or anything, but what went in came right out. So that was the issue. And like any good wife does, she told me to stop fucking complaining about it or do something about it. And she made me an appointment, and had the appointment. Had just finished up the 3 days of very, very heavy peer support and critical incident stress management debriefs with that agency. And like I said before, I had been to the doctors, had gotten an ultrasound on my abdomen, and I got a call literally as I was wrapping up the last debrief with my group from my doctor, who informed me that I had renal cell carcinoma, which is kidney cancer. Which was devastating. Like the Rolodex of everything in my life started to flash before my eyes, and I was inconsolable. So if you could imagine the great bearded one being completely inconsolable, do your best to think about that.
It would have been pretty confronting for a lot of people who knew you to see you have such a visceral reaction, like an understandable reaction for obvious reasons.
Right, but I think that visceral reaction was not only for the actual diagnosis, but I think it was like literally letting go of everything that I've been carrying. Because it didn't end that day. I mean, I continued being inconsolable for a couple days, and had to obviously break the news to my family, and which was, I don't wish that on anybody, which is why Blue Cancer Connect is such a huge portion of my giving back to the community, because it had such an impact on me and my family, and if I can help in any way, even if just to listen, that's what I'm there to do. So kind of fast forward, told both my boys, told my wife, obviously my wife first, came up with a game plan to tell the kids. The kids were a little bit younger. And my oldest son looked at me and said, "I don't know what you're crying about. You're going to beat it." And it was, I think, at that moment that I decided it was time for me to change. It was time for me to take the mask off. It was time for me to get a little selfish and really stop working on me. About a month later, I had my kidney and adrenal gland removed on the left side. I made a very strict orders from bedside that nobody above the rank of lieutenant, because one of the lieutenants that was in charge of the training division, where I was housed under as the peer coordinator, was a personal friend, and I knew he would be able to make my wishes come to light. So. And he did. Yeah. He did a phenomenal job, and he kept a lot of people that had no business being in there. As I reflect on that, though, that's what lived experience is the ability to reflect on that. That was the worst fucking decision I ever made. There were a lot of people that I guess held me to a high, held me high in their lives, and I shunned them. And I pushed them away and didn't want the help, and I didn't want the fucking t-shirt, and I didn't want the GoFundMe, and I didn't want any fucking help. I didn't want it. I was the guy that was there to fucking provide the help. I didn't want it. From the bedside, I was still fucking helping people. I was still on my phone. I was still texting people, still checking in with people. There's still people that'll see this podcast that had no fucking idea.
And don't know.
Had no idea what I had been through.
Do you think that for you, kind of personally, whether you recognize it or not, it was still having that sense of purpose that still gave you that identity when, your life was threatened realistically at that moment? Like that was kind of just something for really positive for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the one thing that drove me to want to continue to fight, if that makes sense. It was kind of that purpose that, even if I'm not here, people are going to remember that I was always somebody that they could count on. So that's what really drove me. So in doing that, we'll fast forward. We'll try to get the fucking get the emotions
lift the vibe a little, Rich.
I'm not trying to. I'm not here for any. This isn't about me. This is about.
So I don't need to like peel off my dress and wear my Rich's GoFundMe QR code
please
or
don't,
something.
please don't. And that's the funny thing is I was pretty fucking adamant about that. Like I didn't want it. I didn't want any of that. I wanted still to help other people and do my job. And, to my detriment, after a month of having a fucking organ removed, I found myself right back to work. I was right back to work. I had a boss who will go unnamed because I don't think it's fair to name these folks. But I had somebody that was at the assistant chief level 2 days post surgery asking, when do you think you'll be back?
Okay.
So keep this in mind is, the administration had a huge role in rushing my recovery. Had a huge role in me coming back, and had a huge role in me leaving the profession. I think that I had given all I could give, and it still wasn't enough, and it made me realize, and that I use this line a lot when I speak to young first responders, is at the end of the day you're 3 emails. The first email that you're welcome. Luckily for me, my son just got that email yesterday. He's been accepted into the Chesapeake Fire Department. So he's starting his journey on the other side. And on the other side,
I was going to say we'll address that later. Fire, police. There's a little bit of rivalry there.
But you're essentially 3 emails. You get that first one congratulating you, welcoming you into the family per se, right? And then you work your ass off to be accepted by people that at the end of the day don't really give a fuck. They don't care. They don't care. You have this false image that all these people really give a fuck about the work that you're doing, and at the end of the day, they don't care. And I'm talking about internally. I'm not talking about victims, and I'm not talking about the community. I'm talking about internally. And we work towards that second email that congratulates you on your normal service retirement, and be sure to turn in your fucking gas card and the rest of your equipment that you can't take home with you, and away you go. And if you're lucky enough to still have contact, or somebody still remembers who you are, or somebody in the space knows, your relatives or something like that, that third email comes out, and that's your services. And we've all been there. We've all seen the emails come out. We've all been, the email will come out that somebody that served 20 years ago has passed on, and they're their services. And just like everybody else, we fucking hit delete because we don't know who the fuck they were in the first place. So, at the end of the day, if I could tell anything to your listeners that are out there, like, if you can just keep that in mind in your career, I promise you will have a career that's built on building a legacy for you and your family, and not for the agency.
Yeah. Helps keep you grounded and focus on the things that actually matter, like your peers, the people who are showing up beside you, not any grand ideas of
right.
There's
no fucking parade, no fucking don't get me wrong.
Well, generally if you get a parade, it's not a good ending, let's be honest. There's one thing, there's some unfortunately, like, some firefighters passed up here in Massachusetts and fighting a fire a few years ago, and like my husband turns around and says to me, don't fucking ever let them put like my face on the side of a building, or like don't let them do shit like that. He's like, no. So I guess that when you were talking about upon reflection, you maybe have some regrets. But
no, I don't regret it. I don't regret it. Maybe I regret it for my family. I regret them seeing how much of an impact that I may have had on people. You know what I mean? So if there was any regret, it would be that. Not so
Mm.
much for me. It would
Mm.
be, in putting them off for so long, maybe that would have generated, a better understanding
Yeah.
as to why.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
Makes
saying that it's
that
the
makes
right thing.
sense.
I'm
But
not saying
no,
that putting them off is the
no,
right thing.
no. And I do, but I guess that's what I'm maybe the point I'm trying to get to, perhaps too slow for your liking, is you saw, like, obviously if you're that person, like I've been in a police department where we have those people that we all look up to, like, and when then that person is going through something challenging, there's generally almost more people who want to be there for them. And I'm wondering if in hindsight you could look back and people wanting to care for you and be concerned and like offer compassion and support because of perhaps everything that had come beforehand, you viewed that as
Yeah,
petty.
absolutely,
And so that was
absolutely.
why you were just like,
Yeah,
no.
absolutely. And that's just not, it was, there was no pity for any portion of my life. It just didn't fit. There was no place for it. It
Yeah.
was you
Yeah.
get up, you do your fucking job, and you do it to the best of your ability, and you don't need the accolades, you don't need the trophies, you're not here for that. You're here to do a fucking job, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. But that was, like, so can you see that now though? Like, was that something that you sort of like internalized and then, after maybe this whole experience, like I guess what I'm looking for is, say you went through something similar today, would you be more open to
Oh, I'd want everybody.
accepting
I'd want
that?
everybody.
You're like, I want the fucking t-shirt, I want the
Yeah, I want it
5K,
all.
I
Give
want
it
everything.
all to me. Absolutely, because I think looking back on it is very selfish of me. I look at it.
Even though you had every right to be selfish at that
Sure,
time.
but I wasn't thinking clearly. I wasn't. I was still fighting other shit that I hadn't dealt with. It was more than just a cancer. It was, my own set of critical incidents, my own set of, cumulative trauma, vicarious trauma, whatever it was that I was carrying,
Yep.
from child life, literally life, life.
Yeah.
So I mean, looking back, going through therapy, having those conversations with a professional, and now being able to reflect on it, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Why wouldn't I? I think it's great for people to hear how much, of an impact that they have had on somebody. I think that gives people the ability to go, well, it wasn't all for nothing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And without, I don't want to dive too deep in a personal sense because it's no one's business, but I guess
broadly speaking,
in terms of your relationship with your wife and your relationship with your children, obviously challenging for everyone involved, but the outcome of that, you dropping the shield, dropping the mask, going to therapy, coming out the other side of it, has that also impacted perhaps maybe like the depth of your relationships or like the openness of some of your relationships that are close
Yeah,
to you?
absolutely. It's funny because I got two boys, and they're in relationships, and I never wanted my actions or reactions to have an impact on their relationships, but I can see some things, obviously, being not only educated but also living it,
Yeah.
to where I've had to pull them aside and be like, hey, like, we're not doing this because you know because I know what that road looks like. I've been with Lisa now 20, coming up on 26 years. So, and 28 together. And it has not been fucking rainbows and unicorns.
Nothing ever is,
All right,
let's be honest.
we'll both tell you that, but I think
Yeah.
that that's what has made it last because of the ability to finally have those hard conversations and be willing to communicate and be willing and open in our communication and stuff like that, which has now bled into the boys. And the boys are, when they're having a rough go at it, or if they're just not feeling 100%, they're now more willing and open to have those conversations. So, a little later than I would have liked to finally to do this, but they're at a point in their lives where I think them seeing me being open and talking about my mental health, not only at home but throughout the country and on the podcast and stuff like that, they're able to have a better understanding, and they're able to be more open and be more self-aware themselves. So if anything makes me proud, obviously
I was gonna say that's pretty freaking powerful.
For all of the things that they've been able to do, and the same thing with my wife. My wife's a very she's like the friggin' mayor of Chesapeake, Virginia, because she's had such an impact on the lives of the kids that have kind of come through the school that she works as a counselor there. So she, I couldn't be more prouder of the relationship as it has blossomed into open communication, really having the tough conversations, not allowing a job or a past incident or your checkered past or anything that you've done in the past dictate who the fuck you are. So and they're living it. So I couldn't be more proud.
Yeah. That's incredible. And also like what a powerful sense of like generational change, perhaps from what was accepted when you were growing up and some of the experiences you had to now you having such a broad impact on your boys in that multifaceted way. Like, talk about legacy.
And that's at the end of the day that, it doesn't matter what the fuck I did, in my career. Like, I could tell some cool stories and it's all fun and games. But at the end of the day, what I learned very quickly when I retired is the three people that live in this house with me are the only thing that matters. Their opinion of me, where they hold me in their lives, that's the only thing that matters. The internet doesn't fucking matter. Absolutely. I don't care. None of this shit matters. It really doesn't. The three people that I had to come home to when I retired, I had to learn a very, very hard lesson that they were the only ones that mattered.
Yep. And then I'm sure that would have been a transition for all of you, having you lingering around the house all the time.
Yeah. Me being home.
Not that you're not busy now, but there would have been a transition for a while.
There was. I mean, it was not only a transition for them, but it was a transition for me. Here was a guy that was used to running 120 miles an hour all the time, to finally even though the therapy was therapy, like I don't think that I really got into the real nuts and bolts of it till here lately, like I'd say over the past year, as to some of the things that were really, really, really deep and embedded. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the other stuff was easy. Like, and then we start talking about the deep embedded stuff. That's when it gets really difficult.
I was going to say that's when shit gets real.
I think we make choices. Those of us that are going through it, we make choices. We go like, okay, well, I cleaned up that section of the closet. I'm good. I don't need to do this anymore. And, I've never been one to just fucking phone it in. I'm taking a deep dive. And I think retirement helped that along because, like I said, you go from being 120 miles an hour all the fucking time. And my buddy, I'm going to give him a shout out, but Doug Monda with Survive First, in Trauma Behind the Badge has said it best. He's got the best description of it. And I found myself doing exactly what the hell he was talking about, which was literally finding myself in an empty house folding laundry and wondering, how this is my fucking life now. Like, how did I get here? You know, how did this happen? Like, I'm not supposed to be doing this. I'm not supposed to be doing this. I need to be out, and I need to be, you know, engaged. I need to do things. I need to see people. I need to talk shit.
Find that new purpose. Find that new purpose. Yeah.
You know, wellness was always my purpose. Yeah. You know, it was always my purpose. But I just needed, I needed something. I needed something, or at least I thought I did. And I will tell you this, I'll fold all of your fucking laundry now.
I've got like 4 loads in the lounge room downstairs. Come on over, mate. Come on over.
The big thing is, I think we feel like we need to fill that void, and I'll be the first one to tell you that that was my first initial reaction. It was like, I have to fill it with something. I have to fill it with something. How many more things can I volunteer for? How many more jobs can I take on? How many more engagements can I attend? You know. Now I'm like, whatever, like, oh, I have to go there. Okay, I'll go. But like, I'd much rather be in the living room, you know, making sure that the house is clean when everybody gets home. you know, I have my job, that I have the things, and you know, when I fill in the time with doing those things, I find, you know, I catch myself going, you know, I'm good with this. I'm this is good. This is actually really good for me. You know, I don't need.
But you can't buy that perspective.
No.
You had to.
You have to navigate it.
You have to navigate it.
You have to navigate it. Yeah, I mean, it'll be 4 years retired here.
I saw that in my stalking.
July of this year will be 4 years. And I will tell you, year 2 was probably the worst year of, like, I thought the cancer thing was bad. Year 2 was probably my worst year. Year 2, I was in a really bad way. I was in a really rough spot, rough patch. Found that mask, put it on, and was, you know, doing my thing, still doing my thing. But, you know, I found myself looking to find an exit strategy. And that's definitely something that was never in the cards. So really, which really had me really want to do the deep dive, Erin. Really wanted to get down to the nitty gritty as to why I'm continuously.
Why your head even went there.
So, which is why I'm doing the work. I continue to do the work. I will continue to do the work. This is not something that I take lightly. It's not something that anybody that is doing the work should take lightly. Just when you think that you're healed, I promise you something is going to creep in. So don't fall for the false narrative out there that you're automatically going to be healed if you go seek therapy, or you go focus on a different modality, or you go, everybody is, finding new things to help them heal. And I'm all for it. But I saw a clip and I applauded, these two individuals who started the Ibogaine movement. It's not about just that treatment. It's about the work that you do afterwards. Yeah. You can't just look for that fucking easy button in your life and think that everything's going to be, hunky dory once you press that easy button. It's the continuous work. It's the continuous modalities. It's anything and everything that is going to help you become that 1% better every single day. So if there was a message to get any of this fucking rambling that I've just done over the past almost hour now.
Oh my goodness.
Please don't fall into this trap of thinking that you're okay. And even if you are okay, great. Share how you got there.
Yeah.
Don't just tell me about all the bad shit that you've been through. share how you got there. And I think that that's the biggest thing that I'm trying to do now is kind of share the journey. Like it isn't all about, oh well, he's healed and he's the most resilient person and he's done this. And no, it's like it's work. It is work. You have to work every single day at yourself. And the minute you fall into this false sense of thinking that you're okay, the world has a way of showing you that you're not.
Exactly. No, that makes all the sense in the world. And I think as well, like even when we get to that point where we think we're okay, so build the fucking scaffolding around you to stabilize it and strengthen it and all that kind of thing. It's not this like, oh yep, that's the thing I can get to tick off on the fucking box, and life's good. You know, I think like we're talking. I don't know. Maybe it might have been in our offline conversation. It's always evolving.
Yes.
But this was sort of, you know, also one of the reasons why I was, you know, very thankful that you agreed to come on and talk to me. And, you know, after getting to meet you in Virginia in October, like you're very open and honest, but you're
go easy on go easy on.
I told you I was going to be gentle. It's all right. No, but like you know, you talked about earlier. You have a presence. You have a physical presence because of your size and demeanor, and they're things that are out of your control. But you are equally so beautifully self-aware and honest, and you write incredibly eloquently. And you know, you've just started the podcast, which we're going to discuss very soon. And as part of your role with, you know, Lighthouse Health and Wellness, like you go around and you speak to other members, and I think it's that duality of your sort of physical presence, which could come across as very intimidating and gruff and all that kind of thing, but there's the heart and the eloquence and everything behind it, and your openness and your willingness to share all of what you've just shared with us here today. Like it really, I think it's very meaningful and very impactful.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Because
was
it was gentle.
Enough?
Yeah, it was very gentle. I appreciate that. But I think that goes back to, you know, if you listen to anything that I say or anything that I write, you know, all of that's built on building a connection and building trust. You know, our profession can sniff out who's here for the right reason and who's not. You know, and I don't want to be put into that category. I really don't. You know, I don't need the lights. I don't need, you know, I was happy behind the keyboard. I really was. Like it was very nice to be behind the keyboard and people just kind of see my image for what it was and whatever. But in saying that, I never realized the impact in the past couple months that I would have. You know, we kind of joked, but you know, I was looking at some things last night, and you know, in 2 months, 17 different countries, almost 300 different cities. It's you know, it's you know, being that I'm in the space and being, I hate using that word too, and so does a lot of
being in the space and on a journey.
Yes, straight, yeah. Take them out. Do your thing in the editing.
I was gonna say edit.
But I think in almost a decade, and people know who I am, and if they're listening, you know, obviously they've supported everything that I've said throughout this decade. But there's a lot of new, and there's a lot of young, and there's a lot of folks that are paying attention, because I think it's important. I think that unfortunately, this community and this culture, because we got so saturated so quickly because we needed the resources, every now and again some things can occur. Some folks can kind of wiggle their way in, and some folks can use it as a springboard for their own personal gain. And that's all I'll say on that. We all have bills. We all have to keep the lights on. We all have to do what we have to do to maintain a life. But it's never been about spotlight. It's never been about how much money.
Performance.
It's never been about performance. It's about just being fucking real. It's about, and I think those that know and those have had a chance to meet me in person, you can make whatever assumptions you want to make based on clips and based on the podcast that you want to make. But until you sit down across from me and have a conversation, make your own assumptions after that. So thank you. Thank you for shedding some light on that.
That's okay. That's what we're here for. And I'm feel uniquely privileged to consider myself one of your friends and a supporter. And, you know, I believe in what you're working on and what you're doing and trying to just, what's the tagline? Turn awareness into action.
Yes.
Right.
Very nicely done. All the homework was done.
Thank you. I know, right? Was it you can take the girl out of the detective role? Except for when you send me photos and I completely miss it. But that's a side conversation.
Right.
So talk to me. So you've been retired for coming up on almost 4 years. You now have a position with Lighthouse Health and Wellness. Talk to me, and amongst all of the other little puzzle pieces.
No, I mean, you know, that's the one. That's the one that keeps me busy. You know, obviously, Lighthouse had started out in the app industry. You know, providing an app for ease of access for resources and building out directories and specific to agencies, like fully customizing it to the agency and making it to where folks had the ability to sit in their driveway or on their couch and either research, go through the library and kind of research the topics that we've talked about today, whether it be anxiety, depression, PTS, substance use disorder, you know, take assessments that are fully confidential, all those things. And over the course of time, over the past 4 years, it's slowly grown into a full-on wellness company. Like, you know, our training has increased like exponentially, with a few of us having the ability to teach a lot of the International Critical Incident Stress Foundation's courses. There's a couple of us that are trained instructors, myself included, that can actually teach basic and advanced courses for agencies, and make it still palatable, and not try to take you know, a full wellness budget away from an agency. You know, we've come up with other new platforms that have recently been released, our Blueprint and our Peer Plus, which then gives your peer coordinators, who I wish I had this when I was a peer coordinator, which is one of the, you know, driving forces behind this, is to kind of give ourselves our own report card. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? How can we fill in those gaps? You know, and what do we need to do to fill those gaps? With the Blueprint, and then with Peer Plus, actually, you know, sending, having folks send in anonymous tips on peers that may need some help, and then having folks respond to those folks and keeping, you know, filling out a very standard form that's anonymous, that doesn't name anybody, just as to what the concern, what the interaction was, and if there are resources or referrals given. which then, as the coordinator, I have that information. So when grants do come about, I have data because data drives funding. So at the end of the day, I have that data. I don't have anybody's information. I just have the data points. And I think, we're taking it to another level outside of just being an app company, which I'm super excited about moving into, 2026. I think it's something that agencies could use as a tool. It's not an easy button. It doesn't replace human interaction. At the end of the day, the tool is only as good as the people using it. So, I mean, we recognize that. We recognize what continued education looks like. So we created a continuous education platform so folks can jump on, because you guys are first responders. You don't have time to sit in a classroom for 40 hours. So we give you the ability to chip away at their own time. So for their continuous education. So really excited. A lot of cool, exciting things on that end. That's awesome. And then obviously the podcast has been another aspect of what we're trying to do. So.
And before we jump into that, I guess I just really wanted to quickly too, like, you were obviously a cop for a long time. I was a cop for, essentially blip on the radar these days. But we all worked with people who we were worried about. We saw signs, things, all the things. And I was a baby when I, became a cop. I was 22 and partnered with people in their late 30s and early 40s. And they were so fucking angry. There was so much anger, and you'd just be like, oh, all right, mate. And now come, full circle, and the education I'm getting and the work that I do and the conversations I'm privileged to have, like, it all makes so much more sense. They weren't angry. They were burnt out. They were, traumatized. They were all of the things. And all they did was get angry and drink.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that you use that at the analogy of we all know, we all see it, right? And my usual call to action and having these conversations with first responders is, you see it. And instead of having the tough conversation with that person, you're more worried about keeping the friendship than you are actually keeping your friend. So, like, instead of the gotcha moment when that person does something to hurt themselves, unfortunately hurt somebody else, lose their job, instead of going in the corner and saying to your friend group, we saw that coming, why not get off your ass and have a conversation? Why not actually step up? I always say, it's great to be a trained peer, but it doesn't cost anything just to be a good person. And sometimes being a good person, you have to have bad conversations. You have to have conversations that people don't want to have. You have to.
But I love that aspect of the app that you were saying, because I mean, like, me as like a trainee, you could see it, but you didn't understand the implications, or I didn't, like, way back when I was in the job. It was very, it was that very rank structure, which I know all of it is, but it was
more paramilitary.
Stand there, shut up, speak when spoken to, watch and learn, all of that kind of thing. Jump in if, the shit hits the fan, and if you don't, well, you're fucked. No one will want to work with you. So, like, obviously, as you go on further in your career, and then you have that, not gravitas, but the or the time on, or the respect from peers to be able to engage in those conversations. But to then be someone like me and then have that app at my agency, because when you're out on the road with someone, like, we would always work with people, and I know American police officers don't, but, like, you might be seeing something out on the road, like, they've got that, jacking people up, all of those kind of things. And you can see behind it, being able to go, I think something's going, that's really powerful.
And the cool thing is, it's one of these tools that we tell our agencies, let's keep it in the hands of the people that are walking out the door as retirees. Let's have you thought about having a family night and introducing the app and the ability to tap into resources? Because at the end of the day, spouses are the first ones to see the behavioral change. And what we do as people that are doing the job is there's a clear delineation. There's a line in the sand. Yes, where I work. Yes, what I do for a living, but that's where it ends. Yeah, you don't have access to the stuff that I have access to because you don't do the job. And I think we're missing a huge element of wellness by not tapping the family and educating the family. Number one, educating the family as to, you may see these things.
Yeah.
You may see this happen. And now giving them the now what on the back end, like giving them the resources, giving them the ability to tap into those resources when they do see something, anonymously,
Yeah. But, and also from talking about it from the other side of it, it's incredibly challenging to discern what you are seeing sometimes. Are they just really freaking tired because they worked a 36-hour shift, or are they burnt the fuck out and on the gradual decline, navigating that, and especially I have I would say a decent amount of understanding. Someone who just works in an office and doing their thing, and their partner's coming home like an angry asshole all the time. They don't know what's going on.
Just chalk it up as him being an angry asshole or her being an angry asshole.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's from my perspective, two of the most underutilized resources is the family side and retirees. Because you're saying, you did 24 years and you're still in your 40s. There are people who could, and additionally could still utilize that sense of purpose.
Absolutely.
Becoming a peer as a retiree. There is that whole swath of people who could be utilized in this way. And I think it's not.
No, if you haven't listened to the gatekeeping episode, now would be a good time. because no, but I mean, I talk about it pretty openly, especially as a retiree, being closed off because I'm no longer, an active member of an agency or an active member of a a freestanding team or something like that. But those are choices made by the people that are leading those agencies and those teams. That's not a choice that I'm making, or any of my peers that are out and retired that want to give back are making. I think to your point, the calls don't stop because I retired. The calls still come in from surrounding agencies, former agency, with folks that maybe aren't getting the attention that they need within the agency. And I find them the help that they need, and the first thing that they ask is, well, how did you get help? Well, I called so and so. Well, you don't have to call them. You can call you call us. And it's it doesn't. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. At the end of
But it's also, why aren't they asking the question, why weren't you comfortable to reach out to us? I can, without breaking any confidence. My hubby, I remember, was going through a challenging time a number of years ago. He reached out to an old retiree who, had been part of the peer support, been out for ages, but he trusted. And it wasn't that necessarily didn't trust anyone in, but he knew that he could have that conversation it would remain confidential, all that kind of thing. And that was such a significant and important resource for him to be able to, and that person, did end up calling the department and having a conversation. But it was for the benefit of my husband, and facilitated a change that needed to happen that I wasn't in a position to help him with back then. I think I had like a young baby and, but regardless of, he got him help, and the kind of help that he needed at that time.
There's something to that lived experience that you just can't.
And the respect.
Yeah, I don't care how many books you read. I don't care how many letters are after your name. At the end of the day, if there's trust and there's a connection, whether it just be the job, walking into any, police, fire, EMS, with a background, that's the connection. It's what you do with it after that, You tell somebody you're going to do something and you leave it be and you don't follow up on it. Yeah, I wouldn't trust you either. You know what I mean? Yeah. But that's probably a whole other show.
Whole other episode, exactly. All right. Well, let's get to the podcast, since we've brought it up a couple of times. The Responder Reset podcast. What was the impetus? Talk to me about the evolution of it and how it's come about, and I guess maybe some of the feedback you're getting as well.
Yeah, so I had been on a podcast for a couple of years with Trauma Behind the Badge, with a group of guys that are completely amazing individuals, very selfless individuals, and leaders, true leaders in the wellness space. And work has kind of gone. We've kind of gone our own directions, and we've kind of faded slightly as it relates to the podcast. Not so much the relationships, but
you can say it. You were ready to go solo.
Not even that.
Okay. Breaking up the boy bands.
Really ready to go solo. Like, I think.
I was staring.
No, in my travels, I had seen a lot of the garbage and a lot of the inaction, a lot of talk, a lot of awareness, but no action. And the impetus was that it was let's talk about some of the barriers that the wellness community is putting up on top of the barriers that are already in place.
Yeah.
So I decided I was going to be the guy. I decided that, it was time to talk about those things. It was time to talk about the barriers that as a wellness community or a wellness culture that we are creating with this flood of resources and flood of people that are, that find themselves looking for purpose, and find themselves, maybe not knowing the things that they claim to know, and it needs to be addressed, because if we don't address it, then we're no different than being the group of people that know that person over there is causing harm to themselves and just talking about it, right? Yeah. So we're no better than those people. Yeah. So I feel like the time was right. The timing was right. It was time.
Stepping out from behind.
Stepping out, yeah. So because I had been talking about it via LinkedIn, talking about it in articles, and getting a lot of great feedback. But I think that they needed to see the person actually saying it. I think they needed to hear the voice actually saying it, and to be able to reach out to a broader audience, to really hit the audience that maybe wasn't being hit in that echo chamber that is that is LinkedIn at times. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, like you're on LinkedIn, you're retired, but like you're probably average first responder. If they're maybe halfway through their career, they're not on freaking LinkedIn. And so to be accessible on social media or like catch a glimpse of you and be like, like what's he talking about? And then be able to like find you on all of the podcasting platforms. You're potentially speaking to people who don't understand that there is gatekeeping going on, or that there are people who, you know, claim to be experts, but they don't understand our lived experience. And then it's going, oh yeah, I went to like see a therapist or a counselor through my EAP and they had no fucking idea. You know, it was very obvious that they didn't understand my experience. And so I did like one session and I never went back, and fuck it, I'll just suck it up for the next decade.
And that's the point. Is I think that there are a lot of podcasts out here as it relates to this topic. I wanted to be the topic, but I wanted to go against the grain. Yep. I wanted to kind of go against the grain and really get people to start thinking independently. Mm-hmm. That's the big thing, is get people to make their own decision, you know, but they need to have all of the information, not just the stuff that is all dolled up and looks pretty. Yeah. So that was the big reason. Plus I had a bully named Kenny Mitchell that was relentless in getting me to this point.
I'm sorry, I don't know who that is.
But I think in conversations with him and in conversations with a few other folks within the triangle, because I don't call it a circle anymore.
So I've heard.
I think it was time. We're bringing the band back together. So Trauma Behind the Badge will be back in February. You know, I think the time of those that maybe have taken a step back, that have been in the community for as long as myself and some of the others, I think it's time we take it back, and not in a gatekeeping sense, but in a sense of, hey, there's more than just this out there. There's a lot of people with a lot of lived experience that can provide a lot of direction and a lot of mentoring and a lot of things, just without words, at no cost to anybody.
Yep. No, that makes sense. And I know when we don't want to be a circle, we want to be a triangle, but to be able to come sort of somewhat full circle, full triangle, I'm not sure. I'll edit that better. Is like we were just talking about at the start, like it's part of the evolution. So perhaps what you're, you know, also getting at is like you evolved from just writing incredibly eloquently about all of these things to then utilizing your voice and then being able to be found on social media. And, you know, the audience you're reaching on, say, Instagram is going to be different to the audience you're reaching on TikTok, because they're different demographics and they, you know, get attracted to different kinds of things. People who, like you're saying, have been doing it for a long time, maybe have taken a step back, taken the temperature and gone like, oh, let's pivot, let's evolve, let's grow and make it so it's better. We've all got now more experience, not only as our lived experience, but perhaps experience in this space. What's hitting, what's not. Let's help the most amount of people in the best way that we can.
Absolutely. And to your point, you know,
I made a point.
Well, to your point, like, I think I did take that step back and go, this isn't right. This isn't right. And, you know, I'm sure that there's some folks out there that have the opinion of, who the fuck is he to tell anybody that it's not right? And that's fine. I'm the guy that has lived it. I'm the guy that has managed it. I'm the guy that continues to manage it. I'm the guy that continues to be the disruptor of the things that I believe and strongly feel. And there are others out there. There are others. I promise you, I'm not the only one with this belief. There are a lot of folks out there that, because of the positions that they may hold, feel the same way. But they're just at a point where they can't voice it at the moment.
Yeah.
But they're coming. Yep. They are coming.
But I also look at it too. Like, I look at it like, I think for first responders, there needs to be a spectrum of options, because what is going to, benefit one person, like talk about like say different therapy modalities, what EMDR does for one, CBT will do for another, talk therapy, whatever. I think in terms of reaching people who need to hear it, like there are, your podcast is very different to my podcast. Mine is just about having these conversations, and I really enjoy it. And that's, I get purpose and pleasure out of it. I get to make beautiful connections, and I'm really fortunate to do that. I wasn't a first responder here, so I don't feel like I, need to have that kind of disruptor energy, because that's not my place. But equally, like, you or Kenny or, any of the other people that we equally know together are going to reach people in different ways. The way that you reach someone might not be the same way that I potentially reach someone. It doesn't invalidate either of the ways that we do it. I think as long as we have the right intentions behind it, which is just helping, not grifting, not trauma dumping all over people. It's, just either being a resource or being able to facilitate them finding the right resource.
Absolutely. There's not a one size fits all, and that's what, we talked about the app as just being a tool. Like, there's so many tools out there. It's not a one size fits all, and sometimes this community, this culture, this wellness culture will find itself, only leaning on the one size fits all, and that's another huge issue within the culture is. What's working for a neighboring agency is not going to work for your agency. And the only way you're going to tap into that is to actually have a conversation with the rank and file as to what they want. What do you guys want out of a wellness initiative? Not what the wellness coordinator wants, not what the chief wants. It's what's going to benefit the rank and file. And that goes back to the gatekeeping conversation. It's well, what's going to make me look the best? What's going to make the agency look the best? Well, what's going to keep our folks healthy? That should be leading that conversation. And the only way that we can get that information is through trust. Because if I send out a survey asking for feedback, it has to be met with a solid. Solid return. I can't just do it with 3% of the agency telling me that they want a new gym. Well, I'm not going to buy new gym equipment if only 3% are giving me, what they want. You have to build that trust early. You have to get the quote unquote buy-in from the agency, and the only way you get the buy-in is by living a certain way. You can't contradict the things that you're asking people to do and live if you're not modeling that behavior.
Absolutely. I like it. And so is there anything else you want to share? Any speaking engagements you've got coming up that you would like to share with the audience? Anything like that?
March is a pretty heavy. It's pretty heavy for me. I'll be in Chicago, Illinois at the Frontline Convention with Blue Cancer Connect, speaking on the topic of cancer and law enforcement for the 100 Club of Illinois, which is a phenomenal nonprofit that literally is doing it the right way when it comes to taking care of public safety members in the state of Illinois. The FOP wellness. I'll be back with Vicky again, doing that. I'm trying to think. There's another one. We have that. We have FOP, IACP, wellness in New Orleans. I'll be on a panel talking about the power of connection and how connection is necessary in building these programs that we're talking about today.
Mm-hmm.
And in April, I'll be keynoting a conference in Delaware at the Beyond the Badge Health and Wellness Summit, April 7th and 8th, and I'll be keynoting that. That will be the first keynote for it'll be the first keynote for the 7 Deadly Sins of Public Safety Wellness. So we'll be finishing that series before then, and we're going to utilize not only the roadblocks but the resets that came with those, and basically give the attendees a call to action. Something to take back with them, not something that just resonates. There's no book signing, there's no nothing like that. It's just giving them the tools to go back to their agency and start doing some of the things to break down those barriers.
I like it. 2026 looks big for you.
26 is starting out very, very, very busy, but I wouldn't have it any other way. It gives me the ability to expand the reach, and that's at the end of the day. That's what it's about: expanding the reach and getting people the help that they need.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Rich, we normally finish off these podcasts by asking, I guess, a couple of questions, and I call them the darkness questions. So obviously the name of the podcast, I will hold space for your darkness. So I like to ask our guests what they do, what practice, what kind of thing do they engage in that helps them be able to hold space for their own darkness.
Well, I think the big thing for me personally, and I talked about it pretty much the whole podcast, but I stopped fighting it. I'm actually okay with it. I sit with it. I use it to write. I use it as fuel to talk about some of the things that I talk about. So I just let it exist. It's there. I know it's there, but I use it to kind of fuel the message that I'm trying to get to everybody.
Yep. I like it. And in terms of, anyone in your life, whether it's a spouse, a friend, anything like that, what can someone do in order to help you hold space and support you in that endeavor?
Presence. Just stay. I don't need you to solve it for me. I don't need you to tell me it's going to be okay. I don't want you to rush through the interaction, because we have a tendency of doing that. Just let me talk. Just listen. Be consistent. If you're gonna check in with me, be consistent. Show up. Knowing that somebody isn't just gonna fucking disappear after that first check-in does wonders for me. So I think that that's the biggest thing that I can give to the audience and to your followers is it's one thing to say that you're doing it, and it's another thing that you're actually doing it and doing it the right way. So just be present. You'd be amazed at the impact that has on somebody just being there.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. As a mutual friend of ours says, those 2:32
That's
a.m.
right.
friends.
That's right.
That's how we
That's
do
right.
it.
You better have at least 3 to 5 of them. I've always said that. Have those 3 to 5 people, those 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning calls, that without judgment, and that can sit with you in that crisis that you're having, without judgment and without wanting to fix it. As first responders, that's what we do. We get called to things to go fix them. And I think that's where some mistakes are made in the peer world is we're not there to fix it.
I think equally that mistake is made in
That's
marriage too, especially when you are married to a first responder.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you'd be guilty of it, as I feel like my darling, wonderful husband is occasionally. It's like, I love the way your mind works. I love how smart you are. I love that you think 10 steps ahead, but I didn't ask for your opinion. I didn't ask for your advice.
Yeah, that's exactly, and I think, when we talk about peer work, that's how you become more proactive, I think. Instead of being reactive and reacting to the bad things, is not only be present when things go sideways, but you can be present when things are going really good too.
Yeah.
You can be present when things are going really good, because at the end of the day, you're making deposits. And when stuff does go bad, they're going to remember who the person was that celebrated their wins with them. And they're going to be the ones that they're going to reach out to.
Yeah. And that kind of, there's a lot of power in being comfortable sitting in silence, in someone's upset, awkward, challenging silence. Not everyone can do that. And so being able to have that skill and also listen, not listen to respond, not listen to, like you said, offer advice, fix it, just be like, almost validate. Yeah, that fucking sucks, mate.
Yeah. Basic needs, if those basic needs are met,
Exactly. And speaking of basic needs, I'm sure you need to get off the podcast with me now. You've probably put in your tax time, and you're like, all right.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It's great conversation. It's great talking with like-minded folks. It's great talking and knowing that there are folks out there, like I said, that are both like-minded and really doing it from a place of actually caring. So that's my big thing. I'm very very, very picky choosy with these things. I was at the very beginning, and it backfired. So, and I'll just leave it at that. It backfired, and we'll leave it at that.
That's okay. Well, I take it as a sincere honor and a privilege that my Boston native adopted big brother would take the time out of his day, because I'd be open and honest, like, I had no idea. I'm not a LinkedIn person. I had no idea who you were or anything like that. And, people were like, got to meet Rich. And then I think from like our first conversation, and then we sat next to each other at dinner and we were trading banter like I'd known you for a decade. And for me personally, me meeting people like you and Kenny and so many others that I've had the privilege of meeting in this realm, space, not space, and not on a journey, has recreated a community for me that I left behind in Australia. So people taking the time to come on and share their experiences, go deep, go honest, go raw, go authentic, it means a lot. And I'm really, really incredibly grateful that you would take the time.
So no, thank you, Erin. Keep doing what you're doing. It's making an impact. It's having an impact on more people than you actually realize. The biggest advice I've ever got in doing this was, you're planting seeds for trees that you'll never enjoy the shade, right? And so, at the end of the day, I don't know what life is going to throw at me tomorrow. So, God willing, I'll be up and chipper and posting content in the morning. You'll get your Friday reset, and forward to it. And we'll be on our way. So
exactly.
Seriously, I appreciate it. I appreciate your time and the work that you're doing. I appreciate your time spent as a first responder. I appreciate you as a spouse of a first responder. I think that you guys don't get the credit that you guys deserve. I'll be the first one to tell you that I took a lot of that for granted as a first responder. So you have my utmost respect in raising a family with a background, but also as a spouse.
Thank you. I appreciate that. If I ever have the honor of meeting Lisa, I'll give her a high five.
And she'll meet you with one as well. Probably a giant hug as well. So
I look forward to it. All right. Thank you so much. This has been another episode of I Will Hold Space for Your Darkness. I've been your host, Erin Jane. And as always, let me listen in a way you've never been heard. Cheers.